Welcome back to another episode of On a Mission. I'm your host, Dr. Wendy Norfleet with Norfleet Integrated Solutions, and it's my pleasure to have with me today Ashley Michaelis with Empowered Voice Rehabilitation LLC. Welcome, Ashley.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So tell us a little bit about you first.
Sure. My name is Ashley Michaelis, and I am a certified speech-language pathologist. I'm the owner of Empowered Voice Rehabilitation, which is a speech-language pathology private practice. We specialize in voice, swallowing, communication disorders, specifically neurogenic communication disorders, and upper airway disorders.
Okay, so mostly, and when you first started talking, I was going to ask you, but I think you answered my question because my youngest daughter had problems with words. And she saw a speech person for about 1.5 years because certain, the compounds, letters she couldn't pronounce well. That's not something you would do. You would be more in disorders.
Correct. So when most people think of a speech-language pathologist, they typically think of an individual working with children, helping them pronounce their R sounds, or
even adults
helping
like to have strokes and stuff, I'm thinking. Because I know a couple of relatives that had strokes and they had to work with a pathologist.
Correct. And so that's more of what I do is working with individuals who have had strokes, brain injuries, or other neurogenic communication problems like diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, ALS, Huntington's disease.
So those things that sometimes it degrades your speech.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And then I also work with voice disorders. That is my specialty area. Okay. In my undergraduate, I was a vocal performance major prior to being a speech-language pathologist.
I was going to ask you what got you into this.
Yep. And so I ended up having voice problems myself, and as a result found speech-language pathology as a career and wanted to help other people who had similar problems. So I do specialize in voice disorders for individuals who end up with things like vocal nodules, polyps, have a rough or breathy quality to their voice because of aging, all of those different kind of pieces of the puzzle, and upper airway disorders and swallowing disorders, which most people don't really know that speech-language pathology does.
Right, I would agree. When you're talking about this, when I first moved here, about a year or so after I moved here, Reverend McKissick, the son, not the senior, he had some vocal problems. And I know he couldn't preach it was a long time. And so I just remember, and I think his wife said he was working with someone and getting his speech back.
Yeah. I was going to say that the voice problems, most people don't really even think about as being something that needs to be addressed until they lose their voice. And so that's something that most people just don't even realize exists kind of as a job for somebody to do, is to rehabilitate the voice. But it is really important if you think about what you do in your job day to day. Most people are what we call occupational voice users. They use their voice all day, every day in their job. And so it's really important to take care of your voice and understand how to preserve your voice long term, because when you do have a problem with it, it becomes a big problem very quickly. So that is something that I specialize in. Most people also don't realize that speech-language pathologists deal with upper airway disorders. So that's things like exercise-induced breathing difficulties, which most people usually go to see like a pulmonologist about.
Right. Or some people can go to a general practitioner.
But a speech-language pathologist can also treat that as well, as long as they have that expertise. And that is one area that I do specialize in. And then swallowing disorders. So a lot of times following a stroke or a brain injury or head and neck cancer patients, they may have difficulty swallowing.
They have to relearn.
And they have to relearn.
Yeah.
So that's another area that I specialize in, is helping people to relearn how to swallow and to get back to eating and drinking the foods that they like to eat and drink, because that's a big quality of life issue.
Right. We all, have certain things we want, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So How big is your practice? I'm just curious.
So my practice is new.
Okay.
I recently just moved back down to Jacksonville from Vermont.
Well, welcome back. There's a
Thank
big
you.
difference.
Yes, there
I'm from
is.
Michigan, so that's a big difference.
And I just opened my private practice
Okay.
about 3 months ago, so it's just me.
Okay.
And we're growing pretty quickly, but we're looking to try to impact as many people as we can because it is a service that is desperately needed for a lot of different people.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing all this information. So if someone wants to get in contact with you and help you grow your practice, how do they do that?
Sure. So there's a number of different ways that they could get in contact with me.
Okay.
They could visit my website, which is www.empoweredvoicerehab.org, or they could call my phone number, which is 904-539-9930. They can also follow us on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. We're at Empowered Voice Rehab. They can also ask their physician, their primary care physician, or their neurologist, or their pulmonologist for a referral.
Okay.
And that referral can be faxed to us. So that is all. Those are all different ways that people can get in contact with us.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing information about your business, and I hope that you have a very healthy, growing practice.
Thank you.
And I just think it's great what you do.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about Ashley Michaelis and Empowered Voice Rehabilitation. Please go to www.empoweredvoicerehab.com to learn more, and we'll see you next time on Buzz TV.